Baked in excuses. That's something that the pre-fight presser has really been ringing bells on right there. They're saying, all right, yeah, Volkanovski, he has nothing to lose. He's not putting a win streak on the line. He's not putting his belt on the line. Yeah, you got 12 days notice, but he's lucky that I'm giving him a chance. That's what Islam Makhachev more or less is thinking. How much are you factoring in these built-in excuses of a short notice title fight?
I'm not, Derek, to be completely honest with you, man. Volkanovski has proved time in and time out that he is always ready to step in. And that even from the wise words of Uncle Dana, he only had to ask him once. He literally gave him a call, said, "You want the fight?" It was already signed. He had to give him a little time to let the boys in Abu Dhabi actually get the notice. But still, man, Volkanovski is always a dog, always prepared, and he's going to show up ready to fight. I'm not putting too much into these excuses, and I highly doubt Volkanovski will say them if he loses it. But what about you, Derek? Do you let those the ears out there in the media play to your picks?
It's almost like a dog whistle, right? It's just like low key, just signaling something to you. And on one hand, from an excuse standpoint, no, I'm not reading into that. But AJ, this is not an excuse podcast. This is not just a peripheral podcast. This is a show where we're talking specifically about wagering and winning money. And when money is on the line, I do have to take that into consideration. So let's jump straight to it, man. Championship rounds. That was the difference maker in the fight last time. Of course, Islam Makhachev got the job done. He argues he won all 4 rounds. He only gave one up to Volkanovski. We get rounds 3, rounds 4, rounds 5. 2-week notice, but he was training to fight Ilia Topuria, right? Can he push that pace? Can he break down Makhachev in the championship rounds on short notice like this?
That's a hard one, Derek, especially because with how Islam Makhachev fight style is, this guy's always going to be there in rounds 3, 4, and 5. Now, can Volkanovski put that pressure on him? I think if we see a mix-em-up, if Alexander Volkanovski is able to defend the takedowns or at least get a takedown, make Islam think and make him use that brain power, because if Islam's thinking, he's going to drain his gas tank a lot faster. Makhachev focuses heavy on just his style of fight, and when he's doing that, he's on autopilot. He's not thinking, but if Volkanovski can get Makhachev to use his brain power, get him thinking a little bit unsure of what goes on, then I'm interested to see it, because both these guys have gas tanks. And who outworks who, I do think all comes down to rounds 1 and 2. But what about you, Derek? If Volkanovski is able to defend those things, if he's able to keep this fight on the feet, or maybe a washing machine style of fight, do you see that being a problem for Makhachev in the later rounds?
I see it being a problem for both guys in the later rounds if they go washing machine style. The weird thing about Alexander Volkanovski is, one, he's built like a bowling ball, right? So he has like this low center of gravity. And when you find Islam Makhachev do the little sneaky trips or picking up and ready to dump him, Volkanovski never gets to a hip and stays on a hip. He gets to a hip and then his foot somehow just like balances himself out so he can get back up to his feet, or he can negate the immediate takedown and control. That's what worries me, is because that's going to make Makhachev work harder for each takedown that he gets. And what have we seen, AJ? Control really doesn't mean much, especially in this type of matchup, if Makhachev can't either finish him with a choke, put a real choke attempt on there, or more importantly, ground and pound, man. So that's what I think we're going to see a little bit more activity there, which then leads to more fatigue in the end of the fight. So let's talk about those types of moments. Cardio, clearly, it's an unknown right now because we don't know how Volkanovski is going to be on, just 12 days notice. But let's talk about the clinch. Right? The clinch generally favors Islam Makhachev. He chains his takedowns from the clinch, does a lot of nasty work from there. I think we're going to see a heavier striking emphasis from Alexander Volkanovski headed into this matchup to really make Makhachev earn it on the feet. Said, I'm not going to let you just hold me down. We're coming to fight. Aggressiveness out of both camps. Who comes out more aggressive? Who comes out more confident, AJ?
Ooh, aggressiveness. I think it's going to be Volkanovski. And I think the reason I think that is because he's going to need to put that pressure and that pace on Makhachev to start this fight, to really put the work in for dividends later on. Mm-hmm. Now, confidence going into this one, I think that's going to be Makhachev with this. You already have one. You're the champ. He's coming in to fight you. Yeah, sure, you had to accept the fight on 12 days notice as well, but you still have everybody. You're on home turf. People are going to be chanting your name. We'll see if that confidence plays off into a little bit of hubris. A lot of the times, home field advantage is not an actual advantage. What do you think, Derek? Do you think the nerves of the situation are going to have any impact on Makhachev? Personally, I don't think so, but you never know. It does come into play sometimes.
It's tough because when you got everybody rooting for you, I mean, what does Derek Lewis say? It's never really a home crowd type situation when you're fighting at home. It's more pressure. You're nervous. A lot of people eyes on you. People you know you're gonna have to see after the fight, right? But I don't think that these fighters are at that level anymore, man. I think these guys have far surpassed that point of their career. But the more important part is that I actually think Volkanovski is the guy that comes in much more confident than Makhachev, simply because he felt him. He saw as the smaller guy, when you look massive size difference, big, small, strong guy, right? The point is that he's able to hold his own. And when you know that you can hold your own against this guy, he has to bring you something different to the table that's going to surprise you. If you can make Islam Makhachev not fight his style, I see that as nothing but a benefit for Volkanovski. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. And that's what I'm talking about, having for Volkanovski, having to switch up not necessarily his style of fight, but make Islam switch up his style of fight. So that way he can start to use that brain power and start dripping into that gas tank. Because at least, and by all means, don't let what the media shows you fool you a little bit. They're putting highlights of Alexander Volkanovski working the fence, working the takedown defense on there. I do think that's going to be a big pivotal moment, especially coming from the clinch like we were talking about before. But if Volkanovski is able to keep this on the feet, I think there might be a chance for an upset here, Derek. I'm not calling for it, but I'm saying it is in the realm of opportunity.
This is too close of a fight to count anybody out in this one. The last point that I want you to actually give me a take on right here is when it comes down to it, once again, if it's a repeat of the first fight, what wins? Is it the volume or is it the control?
I think it's going to be the volume, Derek. I think that's what's going to win this one. Volume and damage. At least of what we've seen lately from the judges, control can get thrown out. It can get a little wishy-washy. And honestly, Derek, I'm a little more nervous if Makhachev is not able to finish this fight and it goes to the judges. I'm not saying there's any shadiness with the judges. Who knows what's going on in Abu Dhabi with them, who they're picking. But a trilogy for this kind of fight does seem to make a lot of sense for the UFC. I don't know if it'll happen, but I do think Makhachev needs a finish in this fight.
It's tough too, man, because if Volkanovski loses, you can argue, does he get another chance at that greatness of being a double champ? Do you get 3 shots at the 155-pound belt? It's like, you better defend your title first, bro, before we start jumping in there. But with that being said, man, let's talk about the odds to kind of close this one out. I believe at close for the first fight, Makhachev closed as like a minus 400 favorite. I have these minus 260 plus 210 comeback for Volkanovski steady. His line has not really moved this week. Is this, I don't want to call it free money, but are you saying this is a steal of a price for Islam Makhachev from a money line perspective? Or do you say Volkanovski showed us how close he could make it the last time, plus 210, we're jumping on that train? What do you think?
Man, I do think this is, what's the word I'm looking? Yeah, like you said, easy money, free, not free money from Islam Makhachev, but it is one of the best prices you're going to get at him, especially if he wins this fight. But to say that caveat, folks, plus 210 for the champ, or for the 145-pound champ in Volkanovski, yeah, throw some money on that all day long. You got $20 all day long. This is too close of a fight not to at least put the money there and have an opportunity to win you some cash. Plus 210. I don't think you're ever going to see that for Volkanovski again. What about you, Derek? I mean, and obviously the money line, I want you to prick on that one, but also, what do you think, man? Plus 300 submission, that to me sounds very juicy, but the odds makers at that plus 185 also see this go in the distance. What do you think?
On one hand, you want to say, oh, is Islam Makhachev a destroyer type cat? Yeah, this time he says he's going to choke him, so he's going to choke him. I love that price. I don't love that price. The reason why is because we saw Alexander Volkanovski. We've seen the grit against one of the best submission artists in the game, Brian Ortega. I just think it's a different challenge to waste energy to try to submit Volkanovski if you don't have it. If you have it, different story. Why not? I always say, club, or not club and sub, but just straight ground and pound, right? Just go for the sub, open up the opportunity for ground and pound, finish it that way if you can do that. But I will say this is the real talk right here from me. Folks, I picking Islam Makhachev and still for this fight, but I will not lie to you. I did sprinkle $15 on Alexander Volkanovski at plus 210. Not going to win you a ton of money. You can't not sprinkle a little something, man. So if you want to throw $5, you want to throw $2 and add it into a parlay for something, like, feel free. I wouldn't, but I'll say you throw a little sprinkle. But with that being said, AJ, Islam Makhachev, and still for me, I'm going to go points, man. I'm going to go plus 185. How do you see it?
Ooh, I'm also going and still with Islam Makhachev, Derek, but I'm actually going to take The TKO. I think you're right. The submission might be a little hard, and we've seen, like you said, in deep. You were there in person when you saw Alexander Volkanovski get out of Brian Ortega's submission attempts. I think he has the same kind of grip. But if Makhachev is able to work the ground and pound, hopefully we'll see if my pick ends up right. But I'm still going and still.
All right, Bloody Water Podcast consensus pick and still Islam Makhachev in Abu Dhabi.